Hi, my name is Sai Kumar Chandran, and I'm the creator of the changing space of strategy and leadership. Now, in this series, we coach, consult, and facilitate learning for business leaders and business owners on various critical subjects pertinent to today. We speak about leadership levers. We also discuss concepts like strategic thinking in the new age, etc. Now, in these conversations, very often we find that our clients are trying to figure out what is really transactional leadership and how do we really establish this. On the other side, they also have these questions about transformational leadership, which we will cover in another video. But today, I'll give you a little bit of background about what really is transactional leadership and also cover 6 pillars which, if done by a leader, will establish the leader as a very good transactional leader. So for a little bit of a background, now every organization has got a strategy, and it's very, very pertinent to get that strategy into execution so that we get results. And that's one of the first places where a transactional leadership plays a significant role, moving from strategy to execution. And this is done by a leader doing multiple things to facilitate results. Facilitation of the environment, which means it could be about culture, about systems, about processes, etc. It is also about clarity of work and what needs to actually get done, the real work. Then the leader also has to facilitate the worker himself or herself, and then also manage the resources. So in a nutshell, you can define transactional leadership as a combination of a set of approaches and behaviors which makes sure that people stay motivated and connected to the environment and the right kind of performance is achieved. To do this, a leader literally has 6 pillars to work with. Pillar number 1 is creating the right kind of clarity of roles and the goals in the organization. A transactional leader needs to define and understand the definition of impact that matters. Look, we all have goals, and those goals are going to create an outcome, and that outcome is what creates an impact for a customer or a consumer. A transactional leader has to have a very good understanding of this and be able to translate this into the appropriate kind of roles to do that work with the right kind of goals and establish that in an environment. Pillar number 2 is for the transactional leader to get the right people to manage those roles and to manage those goals. And this is where we have to find purposeful, skillful, capable people to do what we need to do. A repetitive job may need a person who's focused around doing a repetitive task and has the capabilities to do that. Whereas another one where it requires totally new things to be dealt with in an ambiguous or a complex situation, well, then a transactional leader needs to get that kind of a person. That was pillar number 2 for you. Pillar number 3 is for a transactional leader to really take all of what is discussed in annual operating plans and the overall strategy and focus and strategic initiatives of an organization and make sure that that gets translated into work every single day. Now, how does that happen? This happens by making sure that all the goals that we spoke about in pillar number 1 and anything to do with strategic initiatives in an environment is translated into work and monitored and worked with on an everyday basis. And that's where the victory of the transactional leader and his or her team really actually starts. This gives into pillar number 4. Pillar number 4 is for the transactional leader to be a direction provider, somebody who guides, coaches, and brings in his or her own expertise into getting something done, depending on what the situation is. And that's where a transactional leader is playing the role of a performance catalyst, sometimes with people who have absolutely no experience and getting them to do work, and sometimes working with real experts and getting them to do work, and everything in between this. Now, pillar number 5 is really for a transactional leader to go and find and get help from an expert if there is a problem to be solved and neither his or her team nor he or she can solve the problem. And which is where the transactional leader has to learn to be a problem solver beyond their own capabilities. Also to get help, show that vulnerability that really I want help at this point in time and go out and get that help. And all of this leads into pillar number 6, which is where a transactional leader has to play the role of rewarding the right kind of behaviors and making sure that there is enough and more of a reinforcement and a recognition of work. And like we spoke about in pillar number 4, where a transactional leader is being a performance catalyst and corrects unwanted behavior, in pillar number 6 is where a transactional leader really rewards and reinforces the right kind of behavior. Now, these 6 pillars have to literally be done in tandem, but what my recommendation is for a transactional leader to really be up there in what he or she needs to get done. Pillar number 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much sequential, but thereafter, all the other pillars sort of act in parallel. Now, when a transactional leader does this, that is when the strategy really gets executed into results and impacts for a customer or a consumer in an appropriate fashion, also ensuring that the organization achieves its own outcomes and perfectly enough shareholder and stakeholder returns based on that. And that's where a transactional leader plays a significant part and a role in a day-to-day matter in the short run and whatever needs to get done. Now, to close this concept, a very quick word on a transformational leader, and we will come back with another video on what a transformational leader really needs to get done. But the simplest way to understand that is a transactional leader is largely focused on strategy to execution paradigm for a better today. Whereas a transformational leader is focused on the entire strategy to execution paradigm and looking at not just a better today, but also looking at a better future, a better tomorrow, and shaping, reshaping, and transforming the organization into a purposeful future and what needs to come down there. Yeah. So more on that a little later in another video in this series. But thank you for listening to me today. And if you like this, please subscribe to our channel with the link below, and do set up the alert so that you can look at all the other videos that we bring to you in this entire series. Thank you again for listening to me today.